Everybody ready?
Good, and you?
All right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Dan.
Here.
Damon.
Here.
Kimberly. Here. Jeff.
Here.
Raj.
Here.
I'm also here. Meetings are probably noticed and certified?
Yes.
All right, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Do I want to read the mission statement? Sure.
The Mount Horeb Area School District, in partnership with the community, is dedicated to nurturing, educating, and challenging our students, preparing and empowering them to be productive, responsible, and self-fulfilled members of society.
Thank you. All right, 2A, approval of the presented revised agenda. Second. Motion from Jeff, seconded by Kimberly. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 2B, approval of October 1st, 2018 regular minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Kimberly, seconded by Rod. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
Same.
Jeff abstains. All right. Passing the board. We're not going to do 3A, right?
Unfortunately, Ms. Sheebler's husband was not feeling well tonight, so we'd like if it's okay to postpone that until maybe the second meeting in November, please.
All right. So 3B, school news.
Just like to say, good to be back. You know, I've been here for a while, so I actually wrote stuff down this time, so all professional now. So, things to talk about. I'm pretty sure I know October 23rd was the end of the first quarter. We're a fourth of the way done. And so I'll just start off kind of from the list and go down. So upcoming art events. Tuesday, October 23rd, all students that were interested in visual art classics had a meeting in the art room. And then also on Tuesday, October 30th, all students interested in Visioneers will have a meeting, so Visioneers is starting up. And then student Rotarians, I hope I said that right.
You did.
Yeah, okay, were chosen, I don't know exactly when, and so basically, if you guys don't know, the Rotary Club does, it like gets businesses together and so pretty much supports the community in every way possible that they can. So each month, two of the students, the many students that were picked, will be assigned to attend the Rotary meetings each Wednesday at the Grumpy Troll. And then Spanish Club raised $1,400 for their pulsera or their bracelet project, and that is going towards to support education and well-being in Central America for people that are less fortunate. And then also state honors students were represented, Mount Horeb High School state honors students were represented at the Wisconsin Honors Music Project concerts. And that includes state honor band members, orchestra, and choir at the Overture Center. And if you guys don't know what the state honors people are for band and the music arts, it's so each year 2,000 high schools audition for their place. So the students that are in, they're very lucky to be in, and they've worked very hard to get to where they are. Also, the musical is coming up, The Music Man. Don't know if you all bought your tickets yet, but coming up soon. They're starting to finally incorporate all of the acts together, all the stage crew, the pit, and the actors themselves, so that's coming up very shortly. Sports football is still going along, so it's been we haven't been here for a while. If we win this game against Catherine Memorial this Friday, then we are in the semifinals. And then also winter sports are starting very shortly. Basketball just had their meeting in Mueller's room, I believe, today. And then also winter sports are starting, yeah. And then also, on top of that, a new chapter for Skills USA was, I guess, founded. So we have all of our stuff scheduled, and we're also wondering, so I'll just tell you a little bit about Skills USA. So Skills USA is getting the community to support students that are trying to find kind of like their passion, because it goes more than beyond the technology, like the tech ed side of things. It goes to soft skills as well, and culinary. I think that's kind of cool. And so we have we were also wondering, so I'm part of Skills USA, I'm the vice president. I was wondering if you guys would be interested in us presenting something to you and to have because we have a lot of places to go and we have to get a board's approval by that. So if we're wondering if you could come sometime in the near future, talk about what we are, who we are, and what we want to do. And I believe that is it. So
I think it's amenable to the board, Madam President, if I could add Skills USA to our future agenda topics, would that be okay?
I just wrote it down.
Great.
So,
Talking a little fast there.
That's great.
Great report.
Joey, can you tell everybody about the leadership conference you and a couple of students attended a few weeks ago?
A couple weeks ago, me and a couple of students had the great honor of going with Dr. Salerno to a leadership conference in Wanakee High School on Sunday, October 14th, I believe, yeah. And we pretty much got to spend the day learning about many different things many different leadership things. Pretty much got broken up into groups, and depending on what leadership roles you had at your school, you would go to them. And I went to the student representative section, and I actually brought a piece. I actually gained some knowledge that I was interested in, if you guys would be interested in, instead of just also learning about high school news, going down to middle school to the PC, early learning center, stuff like that, or as low as you guys want some. Because I was thinking, it's not only Mount Horeb High School that I'm trying to represent, it's the Mount Horeb district. So I was thinking if that would be something you guys would be interested in, hearing about, just a little piece. So.
Outstanding. Thanks to you and your classmates for attending that event. We learned a great deal. In fact, it was spotlighted in the WSB School News Journal, and that's how we came to learn about it. So that's outstanding. Joey, appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
Hey, we're so thankful to have Joey on the board. We're also excited to have Jeff Hanna back. Hi, Jeff. How you doing? We missed you around here.
Better.
You look great.
Not better.
You look great. Well, welcome back. And wanted to just share a couple of items that maybe would be reflective of some of those younger grades. On Thursday night, in Ms. Ingham's class and Mr. Nichols' class, we're having a kindergarten STEM night. We can never start science, technology, engineering, and mathematics too soon. Both of these fine professionals are obtaining their master's degree, and this is kind of a capstone activity that they're doing for their studies, so we wish them well. And then a really neat opportunity, I think, in the community, maybe Danny, you want to speak to this, has to do with the community book reading that's coming up. Would you want to say anything about that? Or?
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is being put on by the Mount Horeb Mental Health and Wellness Coalition. One of the initiatives that we collectively came up with was to do, there we go, there's the flyer, to do a book discussion group, selecting a book that has mental health as a topic or a subject. And so it's going to be on December 4th at the library, starting at 6:30 and going until about 8. The book we're going to be reading is Silver Linings Playbook by Matthew Quick. And they have copies set aside at the library for anybody who wants to participate, to check them out. And this beautiful, beautiful flyer was put together by one of our high school students, Lydia, what is her last name? Cruz. Mm-hmm. And so you will start seeing this posted here and there about town here shortly.
keep reading from the calendar, so while we're talking about this, I better put it in.
I could give you one more update if you're so inclined.
Yes.
Infinite Campus has just recently updated their app. You were telling me about this. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, so the old app, you had to refresh every time you went into it to see the most recent grades, and you don't have to do that now. It runs more like the website, and it still sends you updates if you sign up for them to get, like, when your kids turn in grades or if they miss a class, all of that, but it's more in real time. So it's much better. And they have a student version and a parent version. I don't know what the difference is because my kids can't ever remember their passwords and stuff, so they're usually using the parent version. But it's so much better than the old version. It was broken for like 2 days though. You push it and you just get a white screen, and I messaged them and they're like, yeah, we know. And the next day there was an update and now it's all better.
I wanted to pass along these are just absolutely beautiful. Mrs. Pren's class, she has some students who created some messages for the Board of Education in honor of Board Appreciation Week. Is that just too precious? Little Cooper
Bring
makes
this back,
makes
bring
me
this
laugh.
back to me.
That's awesome.
So feel free to look through those when you have a few moments.
Any other school news? All right, moving on to 3C, citizens' comments. None here. All right, moving on to 4A, personnel transactions.
Second.
Motion by Chris, seconded by Rod. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to 5, consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Motion by Kimberly,
Second.
seconded by Rod. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. Yeah.
Is the print doing okay with getting online tonight?
No.
If
I'm
I
struggling.
might just take her.
Yes. Take just a second. I gave up, but mine's.
There are so many of them now, I can never remember which one it is. and-
Good old fashioned.
Damon, how you doing?
Never fails.
Magically, it worked on the first try, and I
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
I'm just gonna sit here quietly.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Oh, no, it's working. What did you do?
All you.
Sometimes you just need someone else to come stand by, and then it's like,
Then it works.
I should work now. Someone else is here.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 6A. Report from October 23rd, WASB Fall Regional Meeting and Workshop, myself and Ms. Saylor. You want to go first?
I typed up on the notes, so if there's something, would you like to go first?
Sure, I typed up notes.
Okay, you go.
I was like, she's going to be so impressed I actually typed up notes. I texted Mickey through the whole thing, and he said, what are these random texts? I'm like, they're my notes, but I couldn't get Google Docs to open. All right, so it was very nice. We had dinner and we got awards, as you can see there, our pretty awards that are, you get points for going to stuff, and then they give you a certificate, a pin, and so we talked a lot about the Blue Ribbon group. I don't know what they're actually called. They gave a lot of recommendations to our legislators. Those included increased special ed funding, so that we can stop moving money from our general fund to our special ed fund. And I think you told me that's roughly like $2 million we moved, which is astronomical. And their request was to increase that 33%. Don't know if they had a reason why they came up with 33%, but they also want to put more money into early childhood. And one of the things that people want, obviously, is predictable funding. So there was talk about somehow maybe tying that to CPI or something, so we can know kind of what our funds are going to be. So it's not this dartboard of what we're going to get. They're also working on increasing sparsity aid, expanding high transportation aid, expanding broadband, and mental health funding, which we need desperately. They also talked about the different campaign promises from both candidates. They sent out a questionnaire and kind of how they both answered. Because it was a WASB questionnaire, a lot of it was focused towards education. And then John actually talked about the upcoming convention. He actually read part of the original charter from WASB, and shockingly, and all of their goals are the same goals we still have now. And we're coming up, it'll be the 100th year convention in 2 years. So, it's a lot of the same stuff. They're also looking for ways to increase participation at Region 12 meetings. The idea should be sent to Tom Weber. He replaced Nancy as our rep. It was in Monona this time. I don't think they always have it in Monona though.
Last year it was in Stoughton, wasn't it?
Yeah. So like for us, in the grand scheme of things, it's like a 3-hour meeting, an hour both ways. I mean, so it's, depending on where they have it, I think it makes it a little easier. I did tell them that. But I looked up what our region is. Our region is the weirdest shaped region, it's like not Dane County, it's like weird this way, all the way down to the border. I don't know who designed those, but, and I'm sure you have lots more to add.
Just a little bit. Good job with the notes, that was nice. So I wanted to touch that, Dan Rossmiller, and for Joey's edification, we have WASB's, Wisconsin Association of School Boards. We have a government relations director, so WASB actually lobbies for certain laws and policies and funding to happen, so he's kind of the guy who keeps track of everything that's happening at the state level. He made the observation that this is the first gubernatorial election that he's ever recalled where both of the candidates are campaigning on public education. So that's going to be a benefit for us, right? He also tied that data into the Marquette University Law poll, which he highlights quite often at these regional meetings. And that poll, you get sort of a sense of what the voters' top priorities are for whatever election that we're looking at. And so for this one, number one came in as jobs and economy, which is often the case, but number two was K through 12 education, where he said that's typically around like the 10th spot. And even leapfrog over health coverage, which was 3, and often that is the 2nd spot. So there seems to be a shift in the voters' perspective right now is what he's noticed, and John Ashley made note of that as well. Lee already outlined WASB's top budget priorities, but piggybacking on that special education categorical aid request, so that has not increased since the 2008-2009 budget cycle. So I would be surprised if this stays stagnant too much longer, so that's great. Lots of positivity with all of those categorical aids, hoping for more. And then, of course, they plugged the January convention. Mr. Ashley highlighted that student equity would be a top focus, as well as continuing to push for more attention to early childhood resources, mental health packages, and also he said keeping technology robust in schools. So it's good evening, good networking, lots of chatty school board members. We have a new president, so it just feels like a good shift, and thanks for letting me and I attend.
And it wasn't dry. So I would recommend, I would go again. It wasn't like I was done and I was like, well, that was a waste of my evening. I felt that it was really informational. At first I was like, oh, what are we going to talk about? And then once they start talking into some of this, I'm like, this is all really interesting. Hopefully a lot of it, like the whole like tying stuff to CPI and stuff, at least having some idea of what's going to come in the budget would be, I don't know, a lot. You know, I don't do financial stuff, but I figured that's better than guessing.
Did they talk about any other legislation, like the proposed, I don't know where it's at now, the legislation about wording a referendum in the future? They didn't touch on that?
They didn't touch on that, it was mostly just our November 6th election.
They did mention the astronomical amount
of
referendums.
But nothing about changing how often.
Since then, though, Dewey Strobel, who originally sponsored that language at the last legislative session, has said that he would bring this back for consideration, which could have an impact on school districts throughout the state.
Any other questions?
Thanks for coming with me, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming with us as an administrator, that's great.
Yeah. All right, 6B, scheduling open house times for board members. And this was for us to go to schools?
Yeah, you may remember, board members, that last year we had a great opportunity for board members. Each of us have our own kind of connection to a school level, and an opportunity to just avail themselves, check in, say hello, and I know that this was a topic people would want to have back on. We can dig it.
We did it last year. I went to a couple, I didn't make it to all the schools in the time frame, but I just wandered the halls and people were like, hey, come talk to me. I'm like, yes, I'll talk to you. What do you want to talk about? I don't even care. Let's talk.
Well,
So-
speaking of behalf of Diana, she was hoping it would be at least once in the fall, once in the spring, to give people an opportunity perhaps on different days.
Yeah. And I don't know, probably not, maybe still this, like before December, I don't know. I don't know what
I would think so.
every schedule looks like, but.
Yeah, avoid exam times and
Right.
parent-teacher conference times. We have a little fun. Something like that this semester.
So everybody liked the idea, like, I think what you did last time was just say open house different buildings were different times and,
Yeah, if you want to send me, well, I think what we did last time was the board said, these are dates that work for me, and then from there we said, maybe we did like a 9 to 11 a.m. If maybe I did like a meeting wizard with the board and found out what, proposed a couple of dates that I knew our administrators were in the building to do, we could make that happen.
How do you want to do, if you can't get to all the buildings in that time, how are we, I don't remember how we did that. Or
think-
do it just by our liaison?
No, we just went to the ones we had an interest in. Like, I went to the one that I typically am in the least amount of time.
yeah. And I went to the high school, I feel like I went to another building. But yeah, I think it was just whatever kind of worked for everybody that day.
Well, how about as the next step, I put together a meeting wizard and send it out to the board, and then we'll find the date that works best for everybody, and then we can schedule some time space around that, and we'll notice it because we have to.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks for your continued interest in our schools.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to 6C, third Friday update. Mr. DeYoung.
So you should have a spreadsheet that Dr. Slinger will pull up on the screen. There's two tables here. Thank you so much, Jackie, for organizing this. So I have to admit, while I'm the one speaking on it, Jackie Brager did a lot of the work behind the scenes. So thank you so much, Jackie. The table at the top deals with our student headcount. And for those of you that are on the finance committee or have been in discussions in previous years about revenue limits, you'll understand that the table at the bottom has to do with our third Friday count relative to adjustment for open enrollment. And so if the question is, how many students are we educating in our district as of the third Friday count in September, we look at that top table, and that's 2,540 students. On the bottom, like I said, we're counting the number of students that attend public education, but not necessarily here in Mount Horeb. It could be Mount Horeb or any open enrollment out students. So from a third Friday count perspective, the bottom table is the one we use, and that total is 2,461. One thing is, that's always interesting is to do a comparison of where we were a year ago to find out if we're increasing or decreasing on the revenue limit. As compared to the revenue limit third Friday count a year ago, we went down a total of 6 students. When you compare a old 3-year average to the new 3-year average, which again, if you've been involved in revenue limit discussions in the past on the finance committee, it's important to compare our new 3-year average to our old 3-year average. And when we draw that comparison, we drop by a total of 3 students. So relatively speaking, we're fairly stable, which is absolutely remarkable in terms of what the long-term revenue limit would look like. For districts that are significantly declining enrollment, and you take a 3-year average into account, that's a significant challenge for them from a budgetary perspective. So overall, fairly stable, down just slightly from a year ago.
And this is especially important because we just graduated our largest senior class, so to be able to recover that many students really is very helpful.
So our third Friday count does not include students who are not residents but are choosing to come to school here. We don't get to count those. But we do get to count students who live here but don't go to school here.
Correct. So 2 things happen with that. On the revenue limit, which is the third Friday count we talk about, we count all of the students that reside in our district, not necessarily just attend Mount Horeb schools. Our aid at the end of our fiscal year gets adjusted by the amount of open enrolled kids coming in is counted as revenue, compared to the open enrolled kids coming out are looked at as an expense. So where we benefit tremendously as a district is because we do so well, we're so attractive for many families. Our open enrollment ins are significantly higher than our open enrollment outs. And that's a significant benefit for us financially. Interesting rules for counting kids, I totally understand.
But I suppose in a way it makes sense, because if you did count out-of-district kids who came to school here in your third Friday count, then that would be used to calculate your 3-year average. And that could fluctuate. Wow, it could work against you in your 3-year average. So it's probably better to not count them. And then if you get them, just add on that aid. It might actually be one thing that makes sense from the state law. It seems backwards at first. There might be a reason.
Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to 7A, we have a lot of second readings. We'll start with the first one, sexual harassment policy 512.
And this was just brought back because we didn't have all.
We didn't have a full board, correct?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, motion by Damon, seconded by Kimberly. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, policy passes. Policy 2, drug-free workplace, policy 522.1.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Rod, seconded by Jeff. Any discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, policy passes. Moving on to the third one. Review of policies documents related to the board's 9/17/18 WASB workshop rule of order, policy 181. This was to change the Robert's Rules of Order to be, we shall use them as a guideline. So I'm not the grand poobah of Robert's Rules.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Rod, seconded by Jeff. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on to public participation at board meetings, policy 187.
Excuse me, Madam President.
Yes.
This policy, the administration had made no recommendations based upon Attorney Butler's comments, and so we were just presenting that for purposes of revision, and of course, if there's any additions or subtractions that we wish to make, we'd be open to hearing those. At our last meeting, we didn't have any, but just wanted to provide that opportunity one more time. If the board is inclined to accept it as it's presented, then what we'll do is we'll just put down revision along the bottom, like the visit with Bob.
So this wasn't presented at the last meeting?
It was, and what was discussed was, this was one of the policies that Bob Butler had suggested we review as a board. And when we did that, there were no suggestions. And that's okay, it doesn't have to have suggestions for changes. Boards typically do that, and then along the bottom, they would just simply say that they reviewed the policy on a certain date. And you'll see many of your policies have that. From time to time, the board pulls together and reviews those documents.
I just had a really quick question. Is the authority for recognizing members granted solely to the president, or is it to the presiding officer?
It would be to whoever's presiding over the meeting.
Yeah. Would you like to change?
That's not what it says.
Right, it says it's.
So I think presiding officer would be more appropriate.
You're talking in the citizens'
In
comments.
section 2.
Yep. Since we updated the other policies to specify, you know, president or designee, I think, in all of them. All right. Any other?
So does that mean we have to come back, or could we
No, we
pass this as amended?
We can pass
Okay.
that on.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion by Brad, seconded by Damon. Any other discussion?
And how it says presentation, so they're limited to 20 minutes.
Yep.
What about citizen comments? Should be a time limit on that, or is it not specified? It's specified in,
Is it in a different document where we specify?
It's in this one and two.
Three.
Yeah, it does say maybe limited to 3 minutes
Okay.
depending on time constraints. So there's
Oh, the very last
a
sentence.
guideline for flexibility,
3 minutes.
Oh, there you go.
Okay,
which
yeah,
seems consistent with how we've
done
been
it in
doing
the past.
it.
All right, so motion by Brad, second by Damon. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, last but not least, Board of Education's welcome brochure. That's been updated with some new information. You guys sent in your grammatical fixes. All right. Do I have a motion to approve it?
So we, just to summarize there, if you look at the second page, the first and second columns, we had some like redundancies that we sorted out which section it went in, right? There was on the bottom left, participant responsibility, and in the middle column in the top, there was board responsibilities. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Danny,
Second.
seconded by Rod. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. These are all of our policies. Moving on to B, consideration of course revision, British literature.
Board members, this is born out of a conversation that occurred at the Education Committee on a couple of recent meetings. And the idea really is to just expand the scope of the Shakespeare curriculum into one of the British literature. The cost to do so, there would be some additional cost in terms of the purchase of a textbook replacement cycle, but that they believe we can do that within our current budget. And this comes at the request of the English department, if I'm correct, not just the teacher.
And education reviewed it and had on 10-1.
Can you help us remember what Naya's concerns were about being consistent with what teachers are requesting? Didn't she mention like a range of funds, like maybe if we didn't know how much something was going to cost, do we even go there, do we ask for a range? Did she have some comments about that? Am I remembering that correctly?
You're jogging my memory, I'm not tracking.
It looks like the
Yeah.
cost, though, isn't very high.
No, it's not. She was just wondering if it would, if we were asking, if we're being consistent with our instructors when they're proposing new courses.
And that's why we sent it back with asking for numbers in there before. I mean, it mentioned that there would be text, but not even an estimate.
That's right.
And we wanted to be consistent. Because in others, we had asked for an actual dollar.
That's very true.
The number 4, general information, it talks about 10 to 12 students.
Those are grade levels.
To grade levels, okay. All right, that's different, yeah. It won't be offered at 10 to 12 students.
Right. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kimberly, seconded by Rod. Any discussion?
So, when
No, go.
Okay, when it talks about course to be deleted or revised with adoption of this course Shakespeare, like that's sort of general need. Does that mean there's no more Shakespeare, or it's working with
This one's replacing that.
replacing
There'll
Shakespeare?
be like a Shakespeare unit.
Shakespeare unit within it?
But it won't be 100% Shakespeare for the
I feel
whole
like
class.
that's pretty good, because I don't
All
know.
Shakespeare.
I want my little Shakespeare thrown in there, but all Shakespeare, I don't know if I can take that.
Yeah, we got
It would be,
You know how I feel.
I love it.
so we have a motion by Kimberly, seconded by Rod. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Review of the budget levy, state aid, equalized value, and fund equity amounts.
This is our headline tonight, folks.
Yes.
Why we're here having our meeting tonight, October 29th, and so we have three items for the board's consideration. I'm so thankful that we have our Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance, Scott DeYoung, who's helped shepherd us throughout this process. Scott, can you help lead us off here, please?
Sure. So thank you, first of all, for being flexible with your schedule and allowing us, as Dr. Salerno said, to be meeting at the end of October rather than October 15th. So as you know, annually at the end of October is when we have the opportunity to find out official state aid amounts from DPI. That allows us to, in return, then reflect on that and calculate our official tax levy for the current school year. So there are two different documents. The one item is up on the screen, and you may recognize the format of these motions, similar to previous years. There's a series of three motions. The Finance Committee talked about the motions in detail, equally talked about, Dr. Salerno just had up our budget revisions that we're looking to make for this evening. So you may recall the timeline as we worked diligently on the budget throughout the spring. The board adopted a budget to bring to the annual meeting in August. There's a few important variables, such as the third Friday count in September, that we use as a projection because we don't have that official count at the time of the annual meeting. Also, October 15th, we find out how much official state aid we're getting from DPI. And like I said, that allows us to then put the final revisions on the budget. So the budget that's been adopted is the budget that we're working off of. The budget revisions that are up on the screen reflect any adjustments that need to be made now that we're about a third into our fiscal year. The vast majority of the changes have to do with the adjustments that are needed in our tax levy, the amount of state funding that we'll be receiving both in state aid as well as grant allocations. You might recall, very simple example, we received 2 safety grants over the last couple months. We need to recognize those grants now in the budget, so that's an exciting adjustment to make. And then, of course, any student needs that are determined in the first couple of months of the school year, we need to make those adjustments as well. So while the Finance Committee did go through line by line and talk about these adjustments, I'm more than happy to go line by line. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that there might be relating to the 3 motions, which is the item that you'll see in board docs on the kind of on the main screen.
Do you have any questions? I do. Do I have to read each one of these motions? There's a lot of zeros and dollars in here.
We should, just for purposes of completeness.
All right.
Would you like to-
I'm good. I got it up here. All right. Oh, nope, I did something.
So we're looking for someone to actually make that motion.
Yep.
I think they'd be so inclined.
To approve the budget adjustments.
We've got to do the first one. So the first one is for,
Well, yeah, for that one.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second the 36 million.
Okay, here we go. Jeff moved and Kimberly seconded a motion approving the 2018-19 revenue budget totaling $36,400,000, whatever, and expenditure budget totaling $61,394,960, including all funds. The difference in revenues and expenditures include items such as Fund 39 tax levy receipts calendar year and expenditures fiscal year, and the Fund 49 receipts referendum interest and expenditures referendum project. We are going to do a roll call vote. Danny?
Yes.
Damon?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
I'm also yes. Phew, all right.
I'll make a motion to approve the district levy in the amount of $13 million.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion by Kimberly moved and Jeff seconded, a motion approving the Mount Horeb Area School District levy in the amount of $13,381,354 in property, or in taxes against the property of said district to meet the approved budget for the 2018-19 school year. This tax levy is $721,712 lower than the 17-18 tax levy, which totaled $14,103,066. This tax levy necessitated a mill rate of $9.45 per $1,000 of equalized value, compared to a mill rate of 10.47 per $1,000 of equalized value for 2017-18. Information at the annual meeting, the district projected a mill rate of $9.92 per $1,000 of equalized value.
And President, if I might just make for notice of just one comment, taxpayers will see about a $1.02 reduction in their mill rate per $1,000 of equalized value. Scott, if I remember right, that puts us somewhere in the neighborhood of where we were even before the referendum, is that right?
We saw an increase of 5.1% in our equalized value from last year to this year. That's significant. The state average was about 4%, so we saw, just over a 1% increase above the state average.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt.
no, that's good information to have though. All right, roll call vote. Danny?
Yes.
Damon?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
I'm also yes. All right, last one.
I'll make a motion to approve the general fund expenditure budget.
Second.
Motion by Kimberly, okay. Kimberly moved and Jeff seconded, a motion to apply the projected $6,057,627.83, being 22.5% of the general fund expenditure budget as unassigned fund balance to meet cash flow needs. Danny?
Yes.
Damon?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Rob?
Yeah.
I'm also yes. Yay, budget.
Thank you, board members.
Do we need to approve the budget adjustments too?
You did that.
That's all in there, okay. It's a lot of numbers.
And thank you, board members. You positioned this community very, very well financially in terms of that fund balance. Many school districts have to cash flow borrow, which is paying money to borrow money and interest just to make payroll. And we, thanks to your efforts, are now one of those districts. And so kudos to you. This is very good news for the community of Mount Horeb. Appreciate your leadership.
All right, moving on to 8, citizens' comments. Seeing none, we have a list of future agenda items. If anyone wants anything added, let us know. Schedule of next meetings. Don't forget, we have a special hearing on the 19th at 4:30. Is that going to be the district office?
Yes.
So I will not be here.
Okay.
I'll be on vacation.
And I'll continue to keep the board apprised of any developments that we have. I plan on meeting with that individual on Wednesday at 11, and hope to have something positive to report.
So you'll be gone at the next meeting. Okay, good to know. I wrote it down. All right, moving on to 11, closed session. Contemplating closed session for section 19.85, paren 1 and paren 1 EN, Wisconsin statute for deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public property, the investment of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, wherever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. and Section 19.85, (1) of Wisconsin statutes for considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, primarily consideration of specific personnel crimes or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paragraph B applies, which, if addressed in public, would be likely to have substantial adverse effects upon the reputation of any person referenced to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations. Roll call. Danny?
Yes, first we have to motion.
Oh, sorry. Yes, your motion by Jeff,
Second.
seconded by Dana. Okay, now I'll do a roll call. Danny?
Yes.
Dana?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
I'm also yes. Let's take 5. Oh, we should go on.